So, you haven't been plugged into the world if you haven't heard about the flag controversy, the national anthem controversy, the taking a kneel controversy. You name it. There's a million things that have come out of this, and there's a lot to talk about. So, the first thing I want to say is Colin Kaepernick took a knee out of protest for the killing of unarmed black Americans, or just the disproportional amount of African Americans shot and killed by the police when compared to any other ethnicity, minus Native Americans, because nobody really talks about them, and they are actually the most discriminated against ethnicity in the entire U.S. Now, people took that as a disrespect towards the flag, towards the troops. Well, let's get towards the flag out of the way. The flag was made to represent the 50 states as seen in the stars, the 13 colonies as seen in the stripes, and the purity of the birth of a nation as shown by white. It has a biblical undertone, Jesus, white, pure. And the red is symbolizing the blood shed by the patriots who fought to secure independence for our country. So unless you are saying it's showing disrespect towards the troops who died for our freedoms, you really technically would only be talking about 1776 and onward till the end of the Revolutionary War. Next, soldiers. Soldiers nowadays, they don't, well, I'm going to sound like a dick if I could say that first. They fight for American values overseas, and our values are not being threatened by these countries right now. This is not a stab to the troops because they are only following orders. This is all about the military. The troops that do fight will tell you that they fight to secure the freedoms that we have in America. Even though I don't agree with why they're over there, that's what they're fighting for. Even though it may not show back to us in any tangible result, that's ostensibly what they believe they're fighting for. Because, let's be honest, every military across the world either mandates some type of participation or uses propaganda to do so. And that's something I'm going to get to in a minute as well. But I just want to end up on the troops saying that they're fighting for your right to be able to knee. Any patriot or any soldier who says he's a patriot and says that kneeling is, un-American and he should stand, that's their opinion, but in my opinion, they're wrong. I don't believe that's true at all. Because what makes us different from places like Turkey, where you have to stand and sing the national anthem before you watch a movie in a cinema, or, get arrested, or places like the Philippines where that's a similar phenomena. Unless you want to be like them, I wouldn't mandate standing for the flag, Pledge of Allegiance, national anthem, anything. It should be voluntary. When I'm at a sporting event, I stand for the national anthem for a couple reasons. One of them, I'm not going to lie, I don't want to be that guy who draws attention to my family or whoever I'm with. And, if I'm at a sporting event, I'm not going to be, on the news making an impact on a bigger level. It would just cause me more harm than good in that situation. Even though I don't have any problem with people sitting or kneeling or not participating in them. Because when you start to mandate anything, that just is the next step is your authoritarian, totalitarian regime run by fascism, which I also want to touch on. Fascism is when corporate interest and politics collides. And you have politicians such as Donald Trump telling private companies such as the NFL what to do. And when you tell people what to do as a government employee, that's fascism. You can't do that, Donald Trump. Roger Goodell has said, no, I stand by my players and my coaches and the NFL owners who have also said that they don't have a problem with it. So you have Donald Trump stoking the social political fires, raising a shitstorm, and I actually kind of thank him. As crazy as that sounds, because there's a lot we can learn from what we see here. We see the reactions of so many people, this visceral hatred of anybody, even these 8-year-old kids who are at like football practice and take a knee during the national anthem. They'll call them un-American little negroids who are being raised by un-American, socialists who need to go back to Kenya. Some of the most racist, vile shit you'll ever see. And it's not always racial, but the vast majority of times it is. Which is why I love seeing that guy in the NFL, forgive me for not having your name on the top of my head, for taking a knee during the national anthem. Because that just shows that, well, a couple of things. It shows the double standard we have. When a white guy does it, nobody's calling for his head, and the fans actually responded well to what he did. As opposed to the NFL, where everybody's booing and talking during the national anthem. So they don't obviously care about it as much as they say they do either. Which brings me to one point before I touch on the most important one. When you bring a flag across the field and drape it, where like you'll have several soldiers holding it, and sometimes it'll cover the whole field, sometimes it'll just stretch across a while. That's against the flag code. You know what else is against the flag code? Using any type of American flag apparel as such. So no whitey-tidy American flags underwear for you rednecks anymore. No more American flag t-shirts. No more Make America Great Again socks. None of that stuff. Because I saw socks with Make America Great and the American flag on it. You can't make anything with the American flag on it a disposable product, so such as a paper plate or napkins. That's against the flag code. Burning a flag is also against the flag code, but that was ruled unconstitutional because that falls under the freedom of speech, and it's protected by the First Amendment. So let's get to the most juicy part of the story. If you stuck around this long, this is really what the story was intended to be about, but there's just so much to talk about this. So, paid patriotism. In 2009, the Department of Defense spent over $53 million for paid patriotism in all major league sports, from Major League Soccer, the National Hockey League, Major League Baseball, the National Football League, and NASCAR. Now, initial reports came out about this. So most of these articles are from 2015 because that was the last time an investigation was launched into seeing how much of these funds from the Department of Defense were being allocated to advertisements, public relations, or propaganda campaigns for Major League Sports. And what they found is $53 million went to spending it. The NFL had the Falcons, a few other teams, I believe the Tennessee Titans, I could be wrong. They had contracts with 72 NFL teams. So, or 72, I'm an idiot. 17 NFL teams. For things such as flyovers, national anthem performances, military appreciation. So like when they have an Iraq vet come and surprise the family. I'm sure you've seen that at basketball games as well. They do it at the NCAA level. They do it everywhere. I'm sure you've been to sporting events where you've seen the Marine pull-up bar. Guess what that is? It's a recruiting tool. It's propaganda because it's a marketing campaign paid for by the federal government. And when it's, paid for by the state, And that's propaganda. That's state-funded propaganda. And it's not always bad. State-funded propaganda isn't always bad. It could be a public health advisory or something like that. But is it ethical to hire people and use patriotism as a way to get young Americans to join the armed services? Fuck no, it's not. And it also conditions the mind to be okay with war. Perpetual war. War like Afghanistan, we've been in for 16 years now, and we haven't seen anything but a resurgence in the Taliban, which we wiped out in 2 weeks when we got there. Now they occupy over 40% of the whole country. So everything you have been told about all of this patriotism stuff, it's really a PR campaign funded by the federal government to make us complacent with going into these endless quagmires so they can fund the military-industrial complex through companies like Boeing, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. We do billions of dollars of arms deals with Saudi Arabia, the largest funder of terrorism in the world. They believe the same ideology as ISIS, and they're killing these poor innocent people in Yemen. They have the biggest cholera outbreak ever. They have the largest problem with starvation and famine ever, like in the history of the country, or maybe the whole world. I don't really remember. It was one of the two. I think it's something like 30,000 new cases of cholera a day enter that country. And guess who's getting their logistical support? The UK, the US, and I believe France as well. So when we're fighting for freedoms, whose freedoms are we fighting for? Because last time I checked, I haven't gotten any new freedoms since we've started fighting these wars. You know, it's only seemed to be getting a little worse, actually. Has anybody been to an airport? What about warrantless wiretaps and government surveillance of all of our personal data, all of our communications, internet history, you name it? They can get to it, and they probably already have the information on you, whether you know it or not. And you want me to stand up for their flag? Do you see where we come from now? Even if you still disagree with me, do you see where we're coming from? You want me to respect a symbol that is seen around the world, just about, excluding Europe, and still in most parts of Europe since Donald Trump was elected. Like, seen around the world as the number one symbol of tyranny and oppression, not freedom and liberty. Not what we claim we're standing for or fighting for. That's just a public relations, Edward Bernays style propaganda sleazy trick that unfortunately works all too well. If you don't know who Edward Bernays is, he's the father of public relations and also the nephew of Sigmund Freud, the psychologist. He created propaganda essentially by himself. He was hired by the US government to actually learn how, so they could learn how to manipulate the public opinion in going into war. I'm not making this up. He's written several books. There's some interviews you can watch on YouTube. Check him out. And if you're tired of hearing me talk, I'll shut up now. Thank you for watching the Primo Show if you stuck around this long. Love you guys. Peace out. See you later.